today by my dear friend Tania Bell, who is the owner of Green Room Interiors. Hello, lovely. Thank you very much for joining us today and to be part of this experience and to share your story.
Thanks for inviting me, Katrina. I feel very privileged to have been asked to be on your journey of finding your true north. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
I don't think there would have been another choice in my lineup. So you are one of my perfect, I guess, confidants and mentors at times, and obviously a good friend. And so I do value your input. So yeah, there was no other choice. So thank you. We have been friends for some years, and just for some context for the audience, Tania and I first met, I think, through a business mums networking group. And at the time, you were in the early days of your business setting up, and I was running mine. And I know certainly one of the reasons that I was drawn to you was your authenticity, your empathy, your spirituality, and definitely your values. And, I know as a professional that, what you've done to grow and work on your business is something that I, continue to be in awe of. And I remember thinking, as I still often do, here's a lady who's got it together and, clearly loves what she does. And I want that. So perhaps let's go back a little and tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Well, that's a lovely intro. Gosh, it brought tears to my eyes, Katrina. I think it's been, I actually was thinking the other day, I think it's been about 11 and a half years that we've known each other. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's great. You still have those memories. I wouldn't have thought that you'd, Anyway, it's lovely to hear those things back. What do I do? My business is an interior decoration and design business, and I've been running it for 17 and a half, nearly 18 years. And like Katrina says, I am passionate about what I do. I jump out of bed every morning, and I think even after 17 years, I'm still loving what I'm doing. So it's so good to have that, I think, with my business, I should explain what I do. So when mostly I work with people who are building or renovating or just wanting to update their interiors. So predominantly residential interiors. I love to bring in some of the clients' a lot of their personality into the space. So I like to get to know my clients very well from the outset. So then I know instinctively what to present to them. So things that I help people with are, particularly when they're building, it's selecting all the materials and the finishes that are required in a new build. So your flooring, your paint colours, your timber on your floor, it might be your tiles in your bathroom, joinery, so bench tops and cupboards, door handles, lighting, and even the external finishes, so roof colours, gutters, fascias, bricks, render colour, all of that. That's my thing. So colour is one of my very, predominant standpoints, and I always come from the viewpoint that colour, everyone needs colour in their life, whether it's muted, beige, or bright out there colours. Yeah, we all do need that. So interior decoration is also a big part of my business, and that's decorating the interior of your spaces. So creating beautiful homely environments, so bringing in rugs, cushions, furniture, artwork, window coverings, lamps, lighting, accessories. So everything that goes into making a space beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know when I'm at Officeworks and I see texters or pens or notes, paper, Post-it notes arranged in rainbow, or if it's cut the colour samples at Bunnings, I get excited. I'm totally drawn to colour, and it makes me feel something. It makes me feel happy, and whatever the case, it certainly elevates my mood. So Your unique sense of style and colour has always, grabbed my attention, and I think you summed up very well what colour does for you. So we're definitely on the same wavelength there. Yeah. Did you always know from a young age what you wanted to do? Was this your thing?
Yes, strangely enough, I did, but I ignored that. When I was little, it was really, I love telling the story. My dad made a cubby house for me and my sister and in our backyard, and I had always great delight in sweeping out the dirt floor in my cubby house and arranging beautiful little posies of flowers on the table and, making the space beautiful and presenting it to my sister and our friends that used to come over and play. So I think I was always destined to be an interior decorator. But I went through my teens and 20s, and I kind of took a lot of different paths to get to where I was. But finally, I spent some time overseas, most of my late 20s, and I came back to Australia and I thought, I've got to start growing up now. I think I need to do some study. And, I went back to uni as a mature age student when I was 29, 30. Wow. And I got my diploma of interior decoration and design, and then started my business when I was, I think I was 32 when I started my business. Yeah.
Yep. I guess as a mature age student where, you're there, it's meaningful and it's purposeful because you've made, a very conscious commitment to do that financially, and it's perhaps a little bit different maybe to someone starting out and going, oh yes, I'll try this or whatever, and it may not work out and I can pivot or I can take a different pathway. But obviously when you're doing it later in life, you've really got to consciously go, okay, I'm doing this, I'm throwing myself in, and I really need to make a go of it. What steps did you then take after that to establish? Did you think that you would start a business yourself, or did you, obviously you went and worked for others? What happened after that?
Okay, well, just to address when I was studying part, I was very conscious of the time and energy and effort and sacrifice that it was to actually go back to uni full time, and really, really poured my heart and soul into that study to make sure it was worth my while, getting, just taking time out from my income producing years. And I knew right from the get-go that I was going to start my own business. I actually didn't work for anyone else as an interior decorator or designer. While I was studying, I was actually I had a part-time role in a tile shop, and so I learnt a fair bit about construction and what goes on behind the scenes when it comes to tiles, bathrooms, all of those sort of things. So with that knowledge, I actually built up a great network of different kinds of people in the industry as well. I had some similar kind of mentors and some people that I later in my early years of my business, I started getting referrals and networking like that. So going straight into my business, I was so green and naive, didn't have an ounce of business background, business knowledge whatsoever, but you know what, I've made it work.
Oh my God, have you? How? So what sort of, obviously, there's some life experience there, and bringing that in.
Yes.
What sort of transferable skills do you feel like really, helped you to run with it?
Yeah, great question, Katrina. I think the maturity definitely was a bonus and gave me a bit of confidence talking to people. But my background was retail. So, and including a stint in the prestigious Harrods department store in London, and I worked in Old Bond Street in London as well with my time overseas. I think that gave me a really good insight into people and how to deal with difficult situations, and that real customer service, that real extra special level of service and understanding of people. It's still with me today, and I still draw on those skills that I gathered over those years that I was in retail. So definitely wasn't a wasted exercise, put it that way.
What are some of the other skills that you feel, are of benefit if, within your industry and with the very intimate work that you do, because you're really tapping into people's personalities, as you said, and sometimes that can be, I'd imagine there would be challenges with, working with perhaps more difficult people.
Yes, yeah, I think the soft skills area, like a lot of understanding about mindset and how people work. There's lots of different types of personalities out there, and if you can understand what type of approach to take with a particular client right from the outset, if you meet their needs, their basic human needs, and know how to do that, then I think you're pretty much halfway there, or more than halfway there. So understanding difficult situations, and maybe even being a bit more compassionate, and perhaps putting yourself in your client's shoes or the other person's shoes, and they might be going through a really hard time with their builder, for instance, and it's a really stressful time when you're building. There's so many decisions you've got to make. So actually not taking their reactions personally, I think, is really important. And just keep reiterating that you're there to help people. You're there to help them, not hinder them. So kind of taking yourself out of it, really, and just being there to serve people.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of a life lesson, isn't it, really, in terms of how we deal with people, because it can really span any role, any industry, any interaction. I think, empathy sometimes is lost when we don't actually think about, this is not about me. This reaction that I'm having or this person is having is not actually about me. It's about where they are right now, and I need to remove myself from that. And I think if we did that more often, perhaps there would be maybe a little bit more kindness spread. So there's perhaps a number of stakeholders that maybe you have to liaise with on a particular project, be it your client and other trades. How do you approach that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Katrina. I actually love to point out to my clients at the outset that I'm open to collaboration. Mm-hmm. So I'm an individual sole operator, but I collaborate so well with other services, manufacturers, suppliers, trades, and I actually communicate that to the client right from the get-go, because I think it's important that they know that I'm there on their side, on the team, and it's actually paramount to get along with people when you're in that sort of situation, when you're bringing in a plumber or an electrician or a tiler or a builder. Like for me to actually get on the phone and have a chat to them, it comes naturally to me, but I think it's really important to establish that rapport right in the beginning, because you get such a better result when everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
And there's communication there. And I also let the client know to say to the trades, let them call me. Like if they've got a question about what I've specified, or anything operational, then they can give me a buzz too. Like I'm there to help you and them. Yeah.
Sometimes it's having that little bit of vulnerability is important in showing people that I guess I'm going to this space because this is me right now. I'm totally stripped bare, like doing this whole experience. I think I'm sure you're probably familiar with Professor Brené Brown.
Yes.
Yep, and her TED Talk on vulnerability. Just for some context, Brené Brown is a research professor whose TED Talk on vulnerability went viral. And she describes vulnerability as being, having uncertainty, there being risk and emotional exposure attached to the feeling that, we're out of our comfort zone. what that sort of brought home to me is that in order to be vulnerable and getting back to perhaps, the way that we deal with people, letting your guard down a little bit sometimes is the way to make people feel human. And it's actually really interesting, something that, again, was part of this speech of Brene Brown, and she said that in order to feel that we're, breaking through, vulnerability is actually the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. And I sort of, I took that on and thought, it's actually when we let our guard down. And similarly, when you're having interactions with people, when you are able to fully just let yourself be who you are, the best version of yourself, and show perhaps that raw side, which we're not wired to do. Everyone wants to, I guess, appear all together and, know what they're doing. And we can't possibly always feel on top of everything. But I feel like having that vulnerability in order to create that innovation and creativity to thrive, you have to have that raw and let people in. And I guess, in a creative space where people don't always, it's not always black and white, having that feeling, is can be a breakthrough for innovation and seeing something, a different perspective and having a different take on things. Do you feel yourself as I guess, having been a business owner, where you have perhaps, hit the wall with something, that you've perhaps had these periods where, you have had to just, I don't know, have a period of vulnerability in order to break through in a creative space?
Yeah, that's great, Katrina. You were actually the first person to tell me about Brene Brown. Remember, there was a lunch we went to, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, and you were talking about it, and I went, oh, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
And then on, it's just like balloons, everyone knows about it now. So I really appreciate where you're at the moment, and you are really in a vulnerable position, and you're just, opening up to all possibilities. So to answer your question, when it comes to a period where I might have had a bit of a hit the wall moment, I actually did I bit off more than I could chew with a decorating project that was my biggest project to date, and that was about 5 or 6 years ago. And I just ran with it, and I got halfway through the project and I went, oh my gosh, this is out of control. I don't know what I'm doing. The client was taking over and getting other people in to do bits and pieces that I didn't have control over. And I just remember thinking at the time, I've just got to get to the end. I've just got to get to the end. I can't keep up. I can't give up. I've got to keep going, right? At the end of that project, it almost broke me, because the client wore me down so much, and I was unprepared for the level of work that was involved. And, it was a fairly new thing that I'd done a whole house. Like, now that I'm doing whole houses now all the time. So one thing I did do at the end, I did take some time to reflect back on my experiences and learn from my mistakes. So I actually documented what I could have done better. And at the time, I had a couple of assistants working with me, and I think that added to the overwhelm. And I remember sitting down with a couple of times on the different occasions with the two of them, and we just wrote things down, how I could have done things differently. They've since gone on to other employment, but it was a real turning point for me in my business, because I actually realised I wasn't who I thought I was, this amazing interior decorator. And it really humbled me to think that I couldn't handle this. And I was qualified, like I'd gone to uni, like why couldn't I do this project? But it was all because I didn't have a lot of systems and templates and procedures in place. Mm-hmm. So then from then on, that's something that I've instilled in me. Or, you know, every project I think, right, now I've got to have a template for this. If I didn't have it, I'd invent it. Yeah. So where it almost broke me emotionally, I picked myself up and I went, no, I've got to keep going. Like, I got to the true core of me again, that why I started my business in the first place.
Yeah.
And I just went, no, I can't give up. I love what I do. I've got to keep going. So that was a real turning point in my business, and I think it catapulted me into a different direction, and changed my way of thinking.
And I think that's probably something that we don't do enough of, that reflection time. And I know you work very hard on working on your business as well as in it. Yeah. And, you know, I think, that's definitely something that is at the core of, you know, progressing yourself as a person, you know, individually, but also, you know, for the sake of your business as well. So, I think it's certainly a lesson we can all take. They say, you know, you surround yourself with people who you most want to be like and aspire to be like. And, you know, as I said in the beginning, this is one of the very many reasons why I admire you as a person. And you know, as I said, you were a perfect choice for me to involve in this. And because of this, you know, I believe you would be a wonderful mentor. Are you in a position to be able to perhaps assist, you know, learning in this space as a mentor for someone who perhaps is a career changer or is a young person looking to enter into this industry?
Yeah, I have on a number of occasions not invited, but I guess I'm open to anyone that contacts me. I've always given back, because I remember when I was a new graduate, or even when I was studying, like, sometimes you'd ring someone or you'd go to a supplier and they'd just shut the door on you, like, and you only want to learn, you know. So I always remember that. And so when I have students contact me, or people that are even just newbies in business, like, it doesn't even have to be interior decoration or design related, but I'm really open to giving and sharing my knowledge and my skills that I've learned over the years. And I love to help people. You know, I like to raise people up. You know that, Katrina.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, so yes, I'd be open if anyone wanted to get in touch, like messaging, email, phone call. You know, I'm always available to do that. I guess when it comes to being a mentor, like, because I'm an owner-operator of my business, and I have contractors that do work for me, so it's just me and my business, really.
Yeah.
It's tricky to actually have students come into my home office, and I do actually invite one per year, because it is very time-consuming to spend that time. Like, it's usually a week, and I have them with me for the whole week. So generally secondary school, like year 11 or 12, maybe year 10 students have contacted me over the years, and I've been open to that. So the same sort of thing would be as if you're at uni and you wanted to have a little bit of experience, then I'd be open to that. But like I say, it's a week out of my business, and I'm not as productive as what I normally am, because I want to give so much, you know. Sure. It's really important that I instill as much as I can in that person that comes to me, because I've got a responsibility to give as much as I can.
Yeah, definitely. One last thing, if you were to give, I guess, one piece of advice in terms of where I'm at now, and perhaps, you know, some inspirational, you know, advice that you could give, whether it's to me or someone out there who is, you know, at this crossroads of their career, like you perhaps were when you made a change, what could you say to them?
Okay, I think you've got to firstly stop and slow down, and take time to really do a lot of soul searching and get to find out what really makes you tick. So whether that's through meditation, yoga, doing some research, talking to people like you're doing, Katrina, interviewing people, reading a lot of books. And the other book that I would highly recommend, and is something that I did about maybe 2.5 years ago. It's Simon Sinek.
Yep.
He wrote a book called, I think it's called Finding Your Why.
Why? Yep.
Yeah, I found my why, and it made me cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you find your why, you know, if you cry, that's what it is. So yeah.
I think that's what's going on right now, is that really important internal homework that's got to happen. And even as I go through this, I think at the end of it, it's not about what I want to do as a profession as such. It's more about who am I and how do I want to spend my time, what's important to me. And I think ultimately that's the question I've got to answer for myself. So, but hopefully these conversations will help to I guess even just initiate other thinking, because when you open yourself up to other perspectives, then that sort of hopefully broadens your mind too. So but it's been really wonderful talking to you. It is, as always, and as I said, I'm really really happy that you could join me on this series, and I wish you all the very best success in your business. I thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Katrina. It was a pleasure.